So I just want to talk about a video that I made yesterday. I was thinking that I really should do 15-minute interviews with people, just to find out, because I want to have like an idea of what people are actually thinking, and I have no idea what people are thinking because I can't get anyone to respond to any of my videos, and people just seem to ignore me and not take any interest in my beliefs. So I can't get a realistic view on what people think about my religion, about the fact that I'm God and stuff like this, and my take on some of the Bible stories. So I'd love to have 15-minute interviews where I get this, and but I don't know if it should be 15 minutes or if it should be less. I want the exposure to be done in July time, but I do want there to be like a 6-month period, perhaps even 9 months, where I talk to lots of people and get an idea of different, maybe even from all around the world, just like different people who speak English, and get just a first-hand view on what they think. And I would love to target YouTubers. I don't know if it should be 15 minutes or if it should be less. There's a possibility it could be 15 minutes, which are 15-minute breaks, but I don't know if I'd be able to have that many conversations over a period of time. But I probably could. I probably could get quite a lot of conversations in that time. But yeah, I want to put an advert out, maybe an advert that isn't done by me but is done by someone else, and not mention the fact that I'm female, and tell them to have an interview with God, and prepare a bunch of questions that you want to ask God, and I'd love to put a YouTube ad out, where like a proper YouTube ad where I can try and get response, but without showing my face. My face shouldn't be on the ad. I want my face to be hidden until I've selected the people that I want to talk to. And I was trying to see if there's anything online to back up the fact that I should have 15-minute interviews, and I found this 15-minute song by Madison and I really like this song, and I think I found it a month ago, and I thought it was about interviews too then, but it's a bit contradictory because the music video is so different. The music video doesn't imply that it's talking about 15-minute interviews. There's a couple of things about it, 15-minute countdown, and it starts now, and you go into a sort of escape room or something. So that's a small thing, but yeah, it's very, very different, and that kind of inspired me to be like, I want to make a new video to this one that is more in line with having interviews or web chat or talking to people, and therefore that was kind of what inspired me to make that video. But at the end of the video, I noticed that straight afterwards, it would kept clicking on to the next song, and the next song happened to be It Hurt, and I don't know, I kind of just thought that I should do some recording of me typing, and it just happened that it was on that song at the time I was filming my hands typing. So and I kind of thought it would work though, because the whole point of these interviews would be for people to insult me or to say what they want, but to deny me basically, or try and say that I can't be God because this, that, the other. The Bible says this, the Bible says this, I can't be God. And then if I actually tell them, well, I'm God and the Bible's not my book, I'm not claiming that the Bible is something that I've written, it's something I've inspired, but not written. And I would love to see how they would respond. I really want to I want to be like a cat that's just playing with her toys, or her hamsters, her mouses, and just see what kind of response I get. I'd love this to get some sort of idea on who really thinks what, and I would like to target YouTubers particularly, to see if they actually mention me, to see if they actually talk about me. I think a lot of them probably wouldn't. They wouldn't want to give promotion to me, so I think many of them might stay quiet if they did have a conversation. And if they did have a conversation, oh yeah, I saw this woman, they're not likely to say anything positive, so it's not likely to get out, but I would love them to just have this conversation, so that afterwards, when I get famous, they would hopefully change their tune. But I don't know how they would respond. I mean, really, I think YouTubers are causing a big problem on YouTube, because they're making hours and hours of videos of just them promoting and preaching whatever they want. Whatever beliefs they have, they will just preach it as this is Jesus's beliefs, when really it's just their beliefs, and they don't seem to realize how insane some of the stories are, and they would preach these stories as if they're truth, as if they're giving truth and knowledge to people. I mean, the whole, debts end after the 7 years. Well, if you've got a 20-year debt, then how can you can't start using that story as evidence that you don't have to pay your 20-year debt when the Bible, if the Bible, the Bible says all debt should be paid after 7 years, and so I'm not going to uphold the 20-year agreement that I made. And technically I don't think that you should be allowed to make a 20-year mortgage. I think mortgages should all be paid off in 7 years. If you can save £10,000 a year, then a mortgage should be the maximum mortgage you should be allowed to get would be 70,000. I think if there was less people, and if people liked each other more, I think there should be some sort of cut off. If you're buying a house for your stay, for your entertainment, there should be a cut off on how much you can take, on how much you can borrow, unless of course you've got the money but it's stuck in shares, or say if you've got a company that's worth £1,000,000 and you want to take out a large mortgage, you might not be able to actually pay the mortgage because all the money might be invested in the company. But that's kind of a good thing, because if it's invested in a company, it means that the money is being used in the company to help pay for other incomes and stuff like this. So there's useful for that. But if you literally have no money and you just want to go to the bank to buy a house, you shouldn't be allowed to do that if you have no money. The only time you should be allowed to do that is if you say, I've got 50,000 and I want to buy this £100,000 house, and I'm making 15,000 a year, but I know I can spend 5,000 a year, and therefore I can give you 10,000 a year every year, and then they can be like, okay, well, we'll give you 70,000. We can give you a £70,000 mortgage. I think something like that is fair, and it's better. But I think just we're living in a world where people just care about themselves, and part of greed is having a bigger mortgage and stuff. And I know bigger mortgages means you can make bigger investments, and bigger investments can equal more money for the business that you're creating. If you're buying to sell, or buying to rent, or buying to do up and renovate, this is slightly different to buying to live for your home, basically. But if you are buying to sell, there needs to be some sort of cap on how long you have to renovate it, and stuff. But I think things need to be changed in this, because there's something wrong with the house market being as high as it is. That's what I think. This house went up like 50,000-60,000 in about 3-4 years. I mean, that's more money than most people can save, and it's ridiculous. But going back to the Madison video that I made. I was trying to upload it on a highest quality that I could get, which is HD, but it kept breaking, so I had to like try it about 3 or 4 times, and then I realised that it kept cutting off at like 3 minutes 37, the exact same minute, and then I realised that it was actually because there was like 3 different layers at the same point. So there was one main layer and then 2 sort of half faded layers. There was a point where I was kind of like trying to make myself look blurry, but I had too many layers, and I think it was just breaking because of there being 2 overlays rather than just one, 2 half. There was a fault there, a glitch there, so I changed it, and then I was able to do it. But when I added the It Hurts video, the It Hurts clips to that video, about the 15 minutes, I didn't actually think that she was. I think she did die in a fire, or in a burning, but I didn't get the vision of her being Joan of Arc until after I'd actually, during the rendering, but after I'd made many attempts to render it. I think it took about 4 attempts for me to actually render it, but I started getting visions during that time, and it's weird because I kind of looked back and I realised that, oh look, I actually had the clip of the girl with the short hair, who I think might have looked, or her hair would have been that kind of length. Joan of Arc's hair would have been sort of that length, but yeah, I was trying to feel the energy of this girl who I think was Madison Beer, so I think Joan of Arc was Madison, but it felt strange, like with some of the other ones, I feel like I 100%, or I'm very strongly certain of who they were in their past life, but with her I was kind of a bit more like, is that her? Was she really Joan of Arc? I mean, I was trying to think of the energy from Joan of Arc, and I was actually kind of, in my image, the image or the feeling I got about Joan of Arc, I actually sensed that she was quite a very strong, bratty person, basically someone who's nothing like Madison Beer. So I was thinking, is that really her? Because I mean, I'm seeing the connection, and I'm seeing this fire, and it looks like someone who looks like Joan of Arc because her hair's cut and she looks like she's wearing sort of boyish clothes, but yeah, and she also looks very someone who would be like, no, I'm doing it my way, like very strong. And I'm thinking about Madison Beer, and I feel like actually the energy's very, very different. So I was like, is this her or is this not her? But then when I did more research into that song that Katy Perry did about Joan of Arc, Hey Hey Hey, and I linked it with the It's Hurt songs, and I was thinking, is there lots of connections? And there kind of was, because I was curious when I was getting the vision of Joan of Arc and how she died. I was seeing a girl who looked like a boy. When she died, she looked like a boy, and I was trying to think about what her clothes were, and it was almost like they kept changing. Like on one hand, I saw the sort of boyish pants and a sort of white blouse, but I was trying to think. It was almost like the clothing of what she was wearing wasn't very strong in my vision, and then I tried to look to see, because I thought it was definitely pants, and then I thought if I could find evidence that she died wearing pants rather than a dress, maybe that would be evidence that the vision was true, and I didn't find that. Most of the pictures are all her having like dresses and looking very feminine. But then afterwards I realised that actually she's the angel of feminine mystique now, so maybe the reason why they portray her in a more feminine way is because they've been linking not to the past but what she's going to be like in the future. And then I saw in It's Hurts, she had like a white dress, and I was like, that's that looks more like the feminine image of the Joan of Arc burning image that you sometimes see. And I was seeing all the links, and I was thinking this is, but at first it wasn't obvious that she definitely was, but I do think she definitely was through looking at lots of different evidence bits. I think with Post Malone, I think he was King Richard, and I feel strongly about that, because that video that he did of the war scene, feel like I'm just getting strong images of what he was like, and it definitely had this sort of king. I feel like I'm seeing the visions very clearly, and I know that he's a king, and King Richard is the name that later came, that the name King Richard came into my head later, and I felt like I'm like 99% sure that he was that person. But although I don't really know anything about King Richard, I didn't even know if he was like a real character or if it was just something off Robin Hood. I didn't even know what he was on Robin Hood, to be honest. I got confused between King Richard and King John. I don't know the stories. I got visions of him fighting in a battle on a battlefield, looking like a king, and I got the name King Richard. So that's how I kind of figured that one. I'm quite confident with that one, because it's just both. How he is now is actually kind of similar to how he was when he was King Richard. That's kind of how I get. That's why I see a very strong similarity, and with Mark Zuckerberg and Albert Einstein. I don't feel like I guessed that one. I felt like I was told that one, and I think he is quite different now. I mean, he's definitely far more modernized and stuff. But yeah, with this one, I feel like she's very, very different, and I feel that the reason why she's very, very different how she was is because she's had one life as a male, and then in that life he realised that she preferred to be a male, and she preferred to be a female, and then she had two other lives as a female, and now and during those lives, I think she did definitely do some sort of suffragette type work, not actually suffragette, but something like feminine, supporting of feminine aspects, and then I think there must have been something that helped her to want to be a singer. There must have been some life there that encouraged her. But to be honest, I feel like she was always destined to have this life as a singer, and therefore my higher self created this Joan of Arc character. Not that she chose, not that the Joan of Arc character happened and she became Madison Beer over a few lifetimes, but rather my higher self knew which one was B Madison Beer, and then she deliberately looked on the life and knew that was going to happen to her. And I think there's two of them actually, two of the angels that have died in a fire by staking. And I said it probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that Jerry Halliwell was someone who was burnt at the stake for being a witch, and I still stick with that. But yeah, that reminds me of that seal image. There was a seal image where they got like something tied, but both the seals had something tied around their neck, and it's just strange how before I made that video, I remember looking at that and just thinking, oh, they died in such a horrible way. And then straight after that, I started getting visions of, or making that video, I can't remember the order, but I started getting visions after that of Madison Beard dying. And I said I don't think it would hurt. You know, when it comes to pain, I feel like the smarter you are, the more connected to senses you are. And therefore, if you're living your first life and you get beaten up quite severely, I don't think you feel it as much as if you're someone who's living on your 10th life and it hurts. And if you know, I feel like just the same with animals. You know, the smaller the less evolved the soul is, I feel like the less connected to pain it is. Like, I don't think bugs feel pain at all. Like, there must be something to keep them alive, but they don't feel pain in the same extent or degree. And as you get into a bigger body, because that antelope must, you know, this big oxes or something, if they're killed by a lion, you know, that must be a very, very slow death. I don't think they feel pain. I don't think an ox feels pain that much when they're being eaten by you know, it'd be a horrible death to be eaten by a lion, but I feel like part of them just succumbs and just like that, don't it? But I don't think they really feel pain. It's the intelligent ones, but it's not determined by a size, by the size of the body. It is determined by the quality of your soul, or the intelligence of your soul. But yeah, it did occur to me that I think Madison's on her 10th life, like most of the singers are. And yeah, if this was 4 lives ago, or 5, there's 2 girls, one of them, is that? Yeah, 5 lives ago, then yeah, she would have been living her 6th or 5th life. And yeah, to be burnt at the stake when you're living your 5th or 6th life, it would probably hurt a lot more than if you're living your first life. And yeah, I don't know, it was a long time ago. Try not to, you know, AJ Miller knew that he was, you know, whipped and crucified, which isn't a nice death either. But try not to think about it, I think, is the best thing. I think a lot of people, you know, I feel sorry for those seals that were slowly strangled, 2 of them together, and that happens it must happen all the time. I don't know how many go unnoticed, but it must happen all the time, even in the sea and stuff, you know. Although it probably happened quicker in the sea because they need air, and if you're being strangled and drowning in the sea, you'll die as soon as you run out of air. So it would be probably a lot quicker death if it was in the sea. Sometimes a quicker death is better. But yes, just something I wanted to say.